So when we're talking about the introduction to sampling, how to get into sampling, there's a couple of vocabulary words we have to go through. First of all is the word sampler itself, a sampler. A sampler is a device that allows you to record audio and then assign it to keys or pads for musical playback. Now, what does that mean? Why are we defining this? Well, the reason why we're defining this is because you could basically call Ableton Live a sampler or Pro Tools a sampler if you just say a sampler is anything that allows you to record and playback audio, because Ableton Live allows you to record and playback audio and Pro Tools allows you to record and playback audio as well. But I wouldn't really consider them samplers, although Ableton Live does blur that line a little bit. I like Pro Tools is a DAW, digital audio workstation. Ableton Live is technically a DAW as well, a digital audio workstation. What does that mean? It means that it has the ability to record audio. It has the ability to playback software instruments. It has the ability to edit audio, record and edit audio, playback software instruments, and also sequence MIDI. All those things together make it a DAW. Ableton Live does have all those things, but Ableton Live, the way it works is a little bit more like a sequencing DAW instrument. It's like a DAW instrument, which is, it's kind of adding in the capabilities of a sampler in there as well. So, and we'll talk about that later, but just before we talk about that, let's just talk about straight up sampler. A straight up sampler is Kontakt from Native Instruments. This is the one that I use all the time. It's the one that I kind of recommend using for stuff. It's kind of the most powerful / easiest sampler to use. We are going to talk about simpler in Ableton Live because that one's also very easy to use, but you can do more with Kontakt, and it's not that hard to learn how to do basic things with it. If you want to dive deep and get all crazy with it, you can do unlimited amounts of things with Kontakt. But if what you want to do is just kind of do some rough sampling and quick stuff, then we can use Kontakt for that stuff. So Bapwhoop says, just because Ableton can be used for live performance using clips and stuff, you're asking about why is it considered a sampler? Well, why would I consider it kind of a sampler? Yeah, because of the clips and live performance. Ableton Live from the beginning was designed as a live performance tool, and they added the sequencing part into it. Well, the sequencing for MIDI didn't come until version 4. Actually, live versions 1, 2, and 3 didn't have MIDI sequencing capabilities. You couldn't like program your drums or your synthesizers and stuff like that until version 4. And version 4 is really what most people kind of, if you've been using Live for a long time, you probably started like around version 4. When I first got Live was in version 1, was when I first discovered Live, and I had to use it. I was using it with Pro Tools and using it with Reason at the time. This is back in 2001, and using it with that. It was like, it was very different from everything else, and it was more like a performance tool than anything else. So it's, yeah, it did. It kind of evolved into a DAW out of live performance. And if you read any kind of articles about with the guys who created Live, they actually created it as a live performance tool for the stage. Just to kind of fill this hole that they were having with their own performances and stuff like that. And then their friends were like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. You should sell it. And they were like, okay. And then they started selling it. It's kind of the version of that I understand in a nutshell. So we will come back to that. We will talk about Live in that kind of regard. But before we do, I want to go over some of this, the vocabulary and stuff using Kontakt. Now, before we do that, I'm just going to record myself saying something in here. Let's go into external in. Let's grab I'm just going to record something so we can have something here to blah, 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 blah. Okay, there we go. Let's go. Just call this one Tony. And we'll just do this. Hi, my name is Tony. There we go. So if we play this back, hi, my name is Tony. Awesome. The first thing I'm going to do here, though, actually, I'm not going to do anything to it. I'm just going to leave it like this. I'm going to take this sample now. I'm going to drag it straight into Kontakt here. I've just got my window open in Kontakt here. I'm just going to drag it straight in like this. Boop. And there we go. Now it's inside of Kontakt. And this is one of the reasons why I love Ableton Live, because you can just drag stuff straight in between your samplers and Ableton. The other programs don't really allow you to do that as easily. Okay, so now I've got this in here, and this this screen right here is not super important. It's just the instrument that pops up and it has my sample in it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a look at this screen here, and this is where things start to get more interesting and more based on what the vocabulary we need to talk about. The first thing we're gonna look at is our mapping editor, and the mapping editor allows us to map things to our keyboard here. And let's take a look at our vocabulary words. So we have a couple things here: the sample start, the sample end, the root note, the key zone, the low key and the high key, velocity zones, multi-sampling, groups, tuning, loop, loop start, loop end, those things there. These are all of the main vocabulary that we need to understand in order to really understand sampling. So let's start at the very top here: sample start and sample end. So first things first, let's go into the wave editor here. The wave editor, let me close the mapping editor. If I play a note, here, where's my content? There we are. Hi, my name is Tony. There we go. All right. So I have this here. Let me just zoom in on this so we can see it easily. Hi. If I hit a key on my keyboard, you can see it starts to play this. Hold on, let me just go down here so it doesn't have this release is too long. Okay. So now, there we go. There we go. Hi. So if I drag the sample start is where it's actually starting in my recording. We can see my waveform here. I'm gonna drag this over. Hi, my name is, hi, my name. Right, and I can put the start point anywhere I want. Hi, my name is Tony. My name is Tony. My name is, right, and we can, it's Tony, like this. Tony. I can zoom in by pushing the little plus button. There's also like a zoom tool, I think, as well. I don't really use the tools in here. I don't. If I'm doing basic stuff like this, I'm just gonna do it in Ableton Live. But Tony. Right, I can play a little rhythm with it, and there we go. And that's basically like easy editing here of my sample. I'm gonna grab my end point and just go. Right, there we go. So now I've just done some basic sampling stuff, and I can go over here. I can set my start point. Hi, my name is. Right, and we can do this. Hi, my name is. Hi. I can just grab the high. Hi. Like that. So there we go. I can grab my name over here, Tony, on the end. Tony. Right? And there we have that part of the sample. So that's our start point and our end point. And usually there's a couple of ways to set those. We can set the start point by grabbing the little flag here, and different programs show it slightly differently, but they all pretty much have a little flag thing here to denote the start and the end. Or I could go over here to my numbers and grab one of these and move this around. Tony. My name is like that. But I find it easier just to use the flag here like this. Tony. Like that. Okay. So that's our start point and our end point. The start point just denotes where the sample starts, and the end point just denotes where the sample ends. Now the root note, let's go into our other screen here to show the root note, the mapping editor. The root note is right here. We can see it's on C3. Now we're looking at a couple things here. You can see this keyboard. Let me just zoom out here. So you can see the full keyboard here, and you can see the keyboard has this yellow box on it. This yellow box is what we call my key zone. The key zone is which notes of the keyboard will play this sample. Because when we record something into a sampler, we have to assign that sample to keys on the keyboard, and that's called our key zone. So with this one here, we can see it's basically across the whole entire keyboard. And if I hit if I hit the key on my keyboard, you can see where it's hitting. Right here, we can see how high my velocity is by up and down, and we can see which key I'm hitting by left and right. Now, so far, I've just been hitting the root note key, which is C3. It's just a C3 on my keyboard. And what that means is that it's going to play back the sample at the original speed and pitch. That's how I recorded it. If we go back and play the original sample over here. Hi, my name is Tony. Tony. Right, it's a little bit softer. Let me just turn it up here. Tony. There we go. Tony. Right, but it's the same pitch. But if I start to play off of that pitch, if I start to play left or right on my keyboard, then it's going to go either down or up in pitch and slower or faster in speed. And this is the thing, is that the speed and the pitch are connected together with sampling because it's just using physics. In physics, remember from Mod 1, in physics, if you slow down a waveform, what happens? The pitch goes down. So we're going slower, we're stretching the waveform out, and the pitch goes down. Now, you can hear this in like the Doppler effect when an ambulance goes by, and it's like doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, and it goes zoom, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, right? The reason why the pitch speed slows down is because the device making the sound is moving away from you super fast, so it's actually stretching that waveform out very, very slightly. So that's why the pitch kind of goes down as the ambulance moves past you. So in this case here, if I play a lower pitch on my keyboard, here, let's do this, and let me zoom in using this as well. There we go. So we can see here's my C3, Tony. There it is. Now I'm going to play down, Tony. Yeah. Little Barry White action. Turn down the lights. Let's get romantical. Right? Okay. And if we go up, Tony. Right? Now, here's the thing, is that if I play them quickly like that, we can hear that it sounds like a scale. Let me just find a different tone. Let's find a different Tony. Let's go. My name is. It's got like a little bit more of a pitch to it. Okay, so if I play this, yeah, Tony, can't get enough of you. All right. Right. So you can hear there's like, even though I'm not really singing or I'm not like saying any specific pitch or anything like that, you can start to hear the musicalness of how I play it. Right. You can hear that. So, but what you can also hear is that it's slowing down and speeding up. So here's the original pitch. Let me just get the whole thing going on. Hi, my name is Tony. Right, hear how slow it's going.
Hi, my name is Tony.
Right, we go up.
Hi, my name is Tony.
It makes it a lot faster. It's the easiest place to hear rhythms and stuff like this. Let me just get rid of this instrument here. Let's drag a beat loop in here. Is through using beat loops. And I'm going to go into those hip hop samples that I put up on the canvas for y'all. Y'all in my class here. Let's go to classic hip hop cuts. Go to loops. We'll go to drums. And we'll grab one here that says 90. Cool, there we go. Here's this. I'm just gonna drag it right here. Great, looks fine. I'm gonna drag it in here. I could drag it straight from over here to over here too. Now if I hit play on this, right? So that's that tempo there, which is 90 BPMs. Let me go ahead and get the wave editor involved in here. I'm just gonna zoom in on this. To make sure we got the sample starting at the right point. And if I put my tempo here to 90. Hi, hey. You stop talking. There we go. Let me turn the level down as well. Okay. So here's my tempo, and if I play. right? You can hear it's pretty much on. It's a little bit slower. It's a little bit on the slow side. But if I change my tempo, stop that. If I change my tempo to 100, and now I hit go, right? My sample is still at the same speed. So what do I have to do in order to make that sample go faster is I have to actually play it up a little bit. This. And I'd probably have to tune it down a little bit from there. 2, 3, 4. There we go. And this is how you would make beats back in the day. If I wanted to make this into like a beat for like a hip hop song or something like that, I hit go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. So you have to do a combination of tuning and playing it on a different pitch to get it to fit the right tempo. And this is what you would do. Although I think I just made it look pretty easy because I've been doing this for a while. I've been using samples since 1992, probably maybe 1993 or 94 when I first got my first sampler. So probably 1994. So I've been doing it for a very long time. It takes some knowledge of how to do it. You got to use the right key on the keyboard. You got to do with the tuning and hearing stuff. If you're a DJ, it makes it a little bit easier to match things up. These days, we don't have to do it like this. We can use warping and stuff like that. But if you're using a sampler like an MPC or something like that, you do have to do it like this. There's still like an art to doing it in a kind of musicality. A lot of practice and ear training back in the day. Tons of practice and ear training back in the day. So much practice and ear training. Practice being the key word. And that's still applicable today. There's like nowadays, if you buy a sample library or sample pack, you don't really have to do any of that. You can just like throw them together and go, especially with Ableton Live. But if you're gonna grab your own samples from records and stuff like that, or if you're gonna, if you're just gonna sample your friends or whatever, you have to do a lot of practice to learn how to do it, to kind of get it going correctly. So we got this. You can hear it sounds pretty good, but it's not the same pitch as our original, because this here, if we can see down here on my screen, I'm playing a D, but my root note is a C. If I change this root note here and I drag it around, it's going to change the speed of things. So here, let's just try this. Let me put it right here on the D. So now when I hit play, it messed everything up because the root note is what's playing our original pitch. The root note plays the original speed and pitch of the sample. So if I move this root note to D, now it's going to be too slow for our tempo. If I move it back to C here, like that, there we go. It works great here. Okay. Now, let's say that I want this sample to be on one key and I want a different sample on a different key. So what I can do is I can take my key zones and I can drag them around here. You can see I'm just dragging the edge of it here. And I can set my key zone to just this one pitch. Now you can see the key zone is actually different from my root note. They don't have to be the same. I just want to play that note. So let's say that I've got that note there, but I want to have these hi-hats, not that one. Wait, where is it? Busy hi-hats, there we go. Let's say I want these hi-hats to be on a different note over here. So I grab them and I'll just drag them in like this. And here, let's move this one down like that and put that here. I'm going to just change the sequence here so it's on. There we go. It's going to still sound the same. And this one here, I'll put this one on D. There we go. So now, when I hit D, it's going to play that note. But if I hit a different note, it's not going to play anything. See how I'm hitting all these different pitches here? Nothing's happening. But this one, it's playing that one, and this one is playing that one. Right? So let me go ahead and, hold on, let's make all these. Hold on, I'm going to grab the end, this release here. It defaults to that setting on this, on Kontakt. So now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this one and I'm going to speed this one up. We're going to go tuning for this one here. We're going to go up one. Oops. Let's go 2. You can hear the pitch goes up. I'm going to pull it down by like 20 or so. So this should be. Cool. So I've got that hi-hat line in there. I'm going to record that in. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Cool. Now let's grab a drum loop from a different, here, let's see what else we got in here. Let's grab a bass line here. These are going to be a little bit tough because there's not a whole lot of like pitch going on. Let's grab this one here. I'm going to put this one on a E here. And we can see the way I put it on here, I could adjust it so it's got like, you know, a couple different notes. And if I adjust it like this, I can grab actually just that one. And I can actually play it if I spread it across my keyboards, or I can just let it play that one. Okay, so that's going to be a little bit tougher to line up, but I know, just because I know this loop is at 94 BPMs and we're playing it at 100, so I need to speed it up a little bit, right? I'm just doing the math in my head and just seeing where things are in relation. So I'm going to go over here to my tuning here, and I can speed it up here like that. And so let me just go ahead and do that. Now it's also going to change the pitch. And because it's a bass sound, it's going to change the frequencies that we're hearing in here as well. So here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop everything here. Let's hit. You can hear it's still a little bit slow, but there you go. Too fast there. That's a little bit fast. Okay, so that sounds pretty good there. Let's go ahead and I'm just gonna put that in with my pencil tool here. Grab it and drag it over. There we go. And now, because it'll just make it a little bit easier than locking in. And now if I hit play on this, so it's a little bit fast. That's like a little bit slow, right? So you just have to balance and keep juggling it. Now let's compare this to taking this and sticking it directly into Ableton Live. And this is where, you know, for something like this, I would just put it right in Ableton Live, because then I could go in here and I can adjust it. I don't need to do all this like mental acrobatics and all this stuff. I'm just gonna go ahead and delete it out of here and hit play on it over here. It just works. And it works at the original pitch. Go ahead and fix a couple of these things up here. There we go. Now I'm also gonna, it's like a little bit off, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and move this stuff around here. There we go. There we go. So much easier, right? So for something like this, I would totally not drop this into a sampler unless I wanted to play those individual pitches. Like, it's just so much easier just to do it in Ableton Live. And that's kind of a little bit of a glimpse into how you use for different things. If I wanted to, like, really stuff that I would do in a sampler wouldn't be stuff like drum loops and things like this anymore, unless I wanted to chop it up and play it in a creative manner. If I just want to play a drum loop straight, I would just use it in Ableton Live, like what you just saw me do with the bass line there. All right, so going back to our notes here, the root note, the key zone. So the root note is the note that plays the sample back in its original recording. The key zone assigns the sample to specific keys, and we've got the low key and the high key, and that's all in here. If we look at our mapping editor here, for all of these, here, let me get rid of this one, delete that zone. So these two here, if I wanted to, I could take this and drag it down, and now I've got the key range. The low key is C2 and the high key is C3. Now on here, you can see this one here says the same key number here for both of them, D3 and D3. That's just because it's only one key. If I drag this over to the right, that upper number changes. If I drag it back, so it's just one key, I can also grab it and drag it right here to move it around. And again, this is going to change depending on the sampler that you are using, how you do this, what it looks like. Different samplers look slightly different. But this one here looks like this. And you have a couple ways you can drag it and move it around. You can do it like this, or you could do it up here. So the 3 is actually the octave. So you've got C-2 on the end over here, all the way up to C8, or actually it goes a little bit higher than that. So you've got 8 octaves here, basically, 10 octaves of this keyboard here, which is a lot of notes. It's 128 different notes that you could play these things on. So that's what our key range is. And then the velocity range is basically the same thing. The velocity range, except for it's using velocity going up and down here. So the keyboard has 128 notes going left to right on different pitches. And the velocity also has 128 different steps going from soft to loud, or from hitting the key harder or softer, which for something like this would equate with soft to loud, but it doesn't always have to be like that. So let's go ahead and drag this down, and let's put this like this, drag this up, excuse me, and there we go. Move this over like that. So now if I hit this key, C3, harder, it's going to play that hi-hat line. If I hit it softer, it's going to play the drum loop. So I'm playing the same note, but it's playing different samples. Right. Now, for this kind of a sample, it doesn't really, what's up? How's it going, man? Oh, I remember you from the other day. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to put these two samples onto one key. Usually what you use velocity zones for different velocities is for things like pianos, acoustic instruments. And all the things we're talking about here are what we call multi-sampling. Multi-sampling enables multiple samples to be used within one instrument. It's used to help sampled acoustic instruments sound more natural. So we've got the key zones that allow us to spread samples out across multiple keys. You can use those for drum kits and stuff like that. But you can also use them for pianos, because if I take a piano sample, here, let's just check out what happens when I do this with a piano sample. I'm gonna get rid of these, get out of here. Let's go ahead and grab a piano sample from Ableton Live. Where's our sounds? Let's go in here to samples. Let's go to piano. So here's a piano, grand piano. And let's go grand piano light, forte. That's going to be the loudest one. And we'll use E3. All right, so I'm going to drag this in, put it across my whole keyboard. Oh, it can't. Hold on. Nope. Let's use. Here, I'll use it. I'll do it in a different sampler. We'll use sampler here to do it because it won't let me load it in because it's a locked sample. What am I doing? Sampler, instruments, sampler. Drag this in. Okay. So what we're going to do here is piano. Use it with Ableton Live's piano sampler. I'm going to drag it in like this. There we go. Okay, so I got my zones here. So this looks a little bit different because it's not Kontakt. Instead of going, the key zones here are left to right, just the same as in Kontakt here. But it doesn't show us our velocity zones right now. We have to do this to see our velocity zones. The velocity zones go left to right as well as the key zones. So here, so there's my E, there's C3 here. We can see this. Let me zoom in on this so you can see. That's our root note. We want to take this root note actually and put it on E3 so it lines up. So we're going to go down here to where it says root note. I don't actually, where is my root note? There we are, root E3. Okay, so there's E3. That's the normal pitch. Right? But if I play this, right now it sounds okay-ish. But if I go further down, you can hear it sounds kind of weird. It doesn't sound great. If I go further down, it doesn't really sound like a piano anymore. Like, kind of. But it doesn't sound right. It sounds fluffy. Right? And the reason why it sounds fluffy is because now it's playing this sample so low compared to its original recording. And if we go up higher, it starts to sound super tinny. Right, now it sounds like a weird toy. It doesn't really sound like a piano anymore. You can hear it sounds like it came from a piano at one point, but now it sounds almost like a harpsichord. Right, which is kind of a weird thing for a piano to sound like. A piano should not sound like a harpsichord. Just for reference, for those of you who are a little bit fuzzy on what a piano actually sounds like, hold on, let me turn on my... A cembalo? Cembalo? What is that, Carl? Here, I'm gonna just turn on my hard drive here. Okay, there's the hard drive. So I'm going to load up a piano in Kontakt, one of the ones that comes with Kontakt. It comes with Complete. And you can hear what a really nice piano sounds like. And we can also take a look at what it looks like. What my computer, it's connected. Come on. Why is my library not found? Really? Huh. That's annoying. Hold on a second. Let me restart Ableton Live real quick. Oh, interesting. I've never heard of that before. This over here and teaching Ableton Live. Yeah, I guess I would, right? Okay, so let's try this one more time. Not sure my Kontakt library did not load up. I hope that's not a thing because I don't have to deal with that. Ugh. All right. Load up. Let's load up my Kontakt. Get a nice sound of, oh, there we go. Cool. Okay. So let's go over here to the Alicia Keys piano. So this is the sampler instrument from Native Instruments, and we can hear sounds good. If we go up high, sounds good. Go up higher. Right? It still sounds thin. But it doesn't sound like a weird toy or the cimbalo thing. It has a nice sound. Like these sound like real, it sounds like a real piano up high. If we go down low, right, you can hear that sounds pretty good. Let's compare that against what we had before. Let me go ahead. I'm just going to grab the same thing here. I'm just going to grab my instruments, sampler, drag the sample into it because that's probably easier than loading up everything that we had before. There we go. So if I check this one out, here, right, there's what that one sounds like. Right, there's what it sounds like down low compared to this one. Right, you can hear all the harmonic frequencies and stuff in there. You can hear it sounds really, really nice. So, right, that one sounds weird and fluffy. Okay, and that's why we want to have these multi-samples. That's why we want to have multiple samples on different keys to make things sound more natural. Now, let's just take a look at this. If I click on this wrench here for this Alicia Keys piano, and go in here to our mapping editor, we can see what it looks like in here for this group. These are all the groups together. I'm going to do selected groups only. So there's different groups in here, and we're going to talk about the groups in just a second. But this group here has all of these samples on it. You can see there's a sample for every single key on the piano, and then there's also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 velocity samples. So there's 128, not 128, there's 88 samples for the piano itself on the keys, because the piano has 88 keys. And then there's 12 samples per key of different velocities, how hard or soft you hit it. Whoops, that's the wrong one. And the reason why they do that is to get a realistic tone from every velocity. So here we can hear what it sounds like soft. And you can hear the harmonics come out of the sound. Now there's other samples they have in here. Here that you can, it's a little bit hard to hear, maybe easier up high. Hear that sound at the end? There's a sound of the keyboard kind of resting back down onto the strings. That's a result of how like pianos work. And they actually sampled that sound too. So every time you release a key, you're gonna hear it. You're gonna hear that kind of the keyboard coming back down. And you can turn that stuff up and down, different resonance things and keys and all that. There's a whole bunch of noises and stuff in here you can put in here. Pedal up, pedal down. Here we go. Released, pressed. Here, let's see this. There we go. Hear that? It's kind of a weird sound in there, but you can hear it in there. And it's part of like what a piano sounds like. Obviously, we don't really hear that sound too much because we're not sticking our heads into pianos most of the time. But if you're close miking a piano, you do want to record that sound. And that's why these things are How much memory we got in here right now? We got, I actually don't know how to look at that. Oh wait, here we go. Maybe. Oh yeah, there we go. So we got about 600 megabytes in our RAM right now of all these samples in the RAM. And the reason why we've got that, and I think this is like probably a 4 or 5 gig sample library, is because of all these samples in here. So we can go through and we can actually mess around with all these groups. There's a whole bunch of groups in here. See all these groups? There's all the different effects and stuff like that. Now, the groups are different sections, different recordings of these things, and you can see all these different ones, and some of them go across the keyboard. Some of them don't actually show anything on the keyboard here. I'm not exactly sure why that is. But these here, the effects of the chair, interesting. I'm not sure what that stuff is. It's like all more complex stuff that they've got in here. These different samples are in here, and when you do different things, and you can like turn them up, you can turn them down, stuff like that. So it's to make the sound super, super ultra realistic. I personally am not a fan of sampling stuff like this. It takes a certain kind of person to want to sit and record things in this much detail. Like somebody who's like kind of preserving something for a museum or something like that, but it's in audio. It's actually really cool. And I know the guy a little bit. I'm not really that good of friends with him or anything, but there's the guy from Samples from Mars. He's in Brooklyn. I've been to his studio a couple times. And he's like really into this stuff, preserving and sounds and sampling them, sampling old machines and old keyboards and stuff like that. Super, super cool too. Samples from Mars, great stuff if you haven't discovered it yet. They run a sale a couple times a year. Their stuff's reasonably priced. Really, really great. I highly recommend it. But going in and recording all this stuff, this attention to detail, it takes days to record it, and then it takes weeks to program it into here. So that's what multi-samples do. Multi-samples enables multiple samples to be used within one instrument, and it's used to help sampled acoustic instruments sound more natural. A piano is a really great example of it. The multi-sampling uses multiple samples using key zones and velocity zones. And then those samples are divided up into groups, and groups allow you to adjust parameters of multiple samples all at the same time. So for example, if I go in here and I say, okay, I want this group to go out of output 1, I could have all these samples here in this one group go out of output 1 or output 2 or something like that, or I could have them have like a compression on them, or I could have put certain effects on them as a group of samples. This is really good for like drum kits. If you want to have multiple drum kits in your sampler and your instruments, you could do that kind of stuff as well. So there's all that there. Tuning, adjust the pitch and speed of the sample in semitones. The tuning in here is up here in the, it's right here. It's not accessible right now. So let's go ahead and look at the other here. Let's go back to this one here, the grand piano. And like I said, I'm showing you this to you in a couple different ways because just to show you how things look differently. But here's our detune over here. And this detune here is in semitones. And then we have tuning over here. And where is it? Pitch. There you go. Transpose here in there we go. This one here. Here's this one here. I can change the transposition of it by using to transpose. But I could also do the same thing using the root key here. If I hit the same note, you could do that as well and get it to detune also. So there's a couple different ways to do all this stuff, and just how you do it really depends on what is happening with things, how many different samples you're using, what you're using the samples for, stuff like that. And then we have a loop point. Let me go ahead and load up the other one that we were using before that had my drum loops in it. And I'm going to show you about loops and loop points. Now loops allows you to take the sample and play it, like hold the key down and it will just continue to play it over and over and over again. So here, let me show you that. Let's see, there's one of my libraries. Where are we? Are there any samples in here? No, oh, the samples didn't come back. Okay, that's fine. We're gonna drag them into here. Okay, here, we'll use this one here. I'm gonna put this right here on C3. And you go away, you stop playing. There we go. Cool, let me adjust this. There we go. Put that down. All right, something like this. There we go. Okay, cool. So we have this here. Oh, I see. I understand why it's doing that, because I didn't edit this down here. Hold on a second. Let me just go in here and edit this beginning part here. Where are we? There we go. That's why. It's one of the reasons why. There we go. Okay. Cool. All right. So we have our drum loop back again. Now, instead of like re-triggering it every time, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set up a loop and I'm going to hold it down, hold the key down. I'm going to go ahead and stop this. I'm going to hold the key down and just have it play that loop over and over and over again. So the way we can do a loop in here, and again, it's different for every sampling machine, but for this one here, Kontakt, I'm just going to go ahead and turn the loop on, number one, boop, and there's our loop. Now, if I hold my key down, where's my key? There we are. If I hold the key down, it's just going to play this as a loop. And I can change this loop to whatever I want by just grabbing things and adjusting it. So we can see down here where it says loop end, I can adjust this like that. So if I go down, I just drag that down. There we are. And you can see this little flag thing is moving here. And depending on how I adjust this, right, it's totally off. The timing is like completely off here because I'm not really paying much attention to it. And we can just make that adjustment however we want. Right? But you really do want it to be on your grid if you want it to be exact, or you can go in here and you can just mess around with it until it gets to be more exact. So I'm just going to go in here and I would say I would move this over like this, and I would move this over like this a little bit. Right, it's a pretty good loop there. Back in the day, you had to do this all with just numbers. There were no graphics on the wave files. I'm talking about like back in the 90s, 80s, 90s, you had to do all this stuff by hand. So it's actually just easier just to re-trigger and not use a loop, especially for drum beats and stuff like this. It's easier just to chop it up and then just re-trigger it. You didn't really want to set up your loops like this for this. What the loops would be really more for this is the easiest way to demonstrate what a loop does. But in practical terms, we would use a loop for actually making instruments. So for example, if I go in here and I just record myself singing horribly, la, that, and take this and drag this into, let's make a new instrument here. I'm gonna grab my Kontakt, drag my Kontakt in here, and here, I don't want to see the browser. Drag the sample into here like this. What I can do is go to my wave editor in here, play that, move that sample, start an endpoint right there. la. So I can take my sample and I can do this and set a loop in here. Like this. This. And do a nice big crossfade. La. So now I have a loop of me playing or singing Forever, Never, Never, which is something that everybody wants to hear all the time. I'm sure of it. La, la, la. Right, so we have that there, and you can, you know, make it. Right, you probably want to put a filter or something on that as well, but that's so we can just have it so it holds out forever and ever and ever. And that's what loops are really good for. Loops are for kind of making these instruments and doing interesting things like this. Not like, I don't really recommend using loops for drum beats and stuff like that unless you're just looping like one little small part of it or doing something kind of creative with it. Because with a drum beat, your loop is going to get off eventually anyway. So just re-trigger it, chop it up, and re-trigger it. Stuff like that. We're going to be talking about chopping up your beats and stuff like that later on. But yeah, so that's basically looping. And you can see here in Kontakt, Kontakt has multiple loop points. You can set up to do different things. So you can have it go to loop and do one loop like X amount of times, and then go to another loop, and then go to another loop, and go to another loop, stuff like that. It's more complicated sample manipulation stuff if you want to get into it. Great. There it is. It's not something that I do a whole lot of in here, but you can do it. It's there in Kontakt for you. Where's my? Oh, interesting. Huh? Did I quit out of it? I must have quit out of it without realizing it. Okay, so all right, so here's some just descriptions of the key zones and root notes and all that stuff, like some on like drawings here. You can see the key zones. I've got, here's just one key zone, and here's multiple keys where you can play different things on different pitches. And here's what the root note is. The root note is inside the key zone in this instance, but the root note does not have to be inside the key zone. And remember, if you move the root note lower, the actual keys that you're playing will sound higher because it's all relative to each other. And that's a little bit, that right there, that statement that I just made, that if you move the root note lower, your sounds go higher. You have to play with this stuff to really understand that. You're not going to just listening to me say it. It's like, oh yeah, I totally get it. Not like that at all. You're going to have to play with it in order to really internalize it and understand it. Velocity zones, different, same thing as key zones, just on different velocities. Remember, velocity is how hard or soft you hit the note. And then groups, using groups means I don't have to assign samples one by one to an output. So sampler has 8 outputs. I can use main 1 and 2. I can have 3 and 4 for group 1. I can have 5 and 6 for group 2, 7 and 8 for group 3, etc. You can put different filters on things, stuff like that. That's what the groups are for. Loops, the loop start point endpoints do not have to be the same as the sample start endpoints. They can be different, and it's going to loop through. You're going to hit play, and it's going to loop that part of it. And then when you let go, it'll either go out of the loop or it'll just stay in the loop or something like that. You can change that stuff. Usually it's changed right in here where it says here, how is it going to loop mode? It's going to be until the end, until the release. It's just a one shot, which is just plays it through from the beginning, something like that. So this really comes into play more when I have a long release on it. So for example, if I have this release cranked up, la, la. So I've got that there, and if I have it looped, let's loop until the release. Right? So when I release it, it's going to stop looping and it's going to play to the end of the sample. Like that. But if I have it loop until end, it's just going to keep looping until the sample, until it dies off. Right, which is maybe a little bit more useful for something as majestic as my voice. And then you can have it loop back and forth. And sometimes that works better. You can hear in this case it doesn't actually work better. It works better to have it like this. Then you can see there's this loop edit button. And again, not all editors, not all sample machines have this, but some of them do. And this loop edit button here, we can grab this and we can move these things here, the end, like that, and kind of move it around. So it kind of matches up here. And again, the more you do this, the more you're going to, actually I think you can just grab it and move, yeah, you can just grab it and move it. The more you're going to get better at it. So there really is an art form to sampling. All right, so in Kontakt, actually let's stop here for a second. Let's take a bit of a break because we've been going for a little bit now. Let's take a break and come back and talk about this. Like, take 10-minute break. Let me stop the recording.